Of course, is a fast day of Tzom Gedalia. It's a fast day because after the destruction of the first temple, the king Nebuchadnezzar, people to have their own autonomy, a governor by the name of Gedalia ben Achikam. And sadly, tragically, there were Jews who didn't like him, and in a disguise they came in to meet with him, and they pulled out a sword and they murdered him. They assassinated this Jewish governor. And it ended the Jewish autonomy in the land of Israel. And it's a tragic day because it's sort of like reminds us what happened in Israel with Yitzchak Rabin being assassinated. When one Jew kills another Jew, there could be nothing worse than that. And this is what happened going back to the time of the destruction of the first temple. But the question is, there are many people who were murdered in the Jewish life over the centuries and the millenniums. Why do we have a fast for him? And perhaps the answer is because we just finished Rosh Hashanah. And today's the first day post Rosh Hashanah as we're getting ready for Yom Kippur. And what's the very first message we get on this day of Tzom Gedalia? The first message is we Jews have to be together. We have to love each other. We have to be united. Because we know the Talmud says that Yom Kippur, when we come to God, God grants forgiveness. But only on those sins that we committed against God. What about the sins we committed against our fellow man? No one could forgive you except that person. Even God says, I have no power to forgive. If you hurt somebody else, imagine I steal $100 from you and I ask a third guy to forgive me for stealing from that guy. How could I ask for forgiveness from someone else for murdering stealing from someone else? I could only ask it I have to make amends to that person, give him back his $100 and say, I'm sorry. Same thing God says, you can't ask me for forgiveness for what you did against your fellow man. You must go to that person. He's the only one who could absolve you. And that's why we all know the custom is that before Yom Kippur, we go to our friends and our neighbors that we may have hurt, we may have offended. We say, please forgive us for any wrong we may have done to you in the past year. We ask mechila, we ask for forgiveness. And we even have to ask forgiveness from the people who are closest to us, our spouses, our family members, because maybe we did something to them too that, we need to ask for forgiveness. And when you go to AT&T, they tell you they have these plans called family and friends, right? Two categories, family and friends. But the Jewish people, we're both family and friends because we're all mishpacha. I remember once hearing a story about this guy who wanted to get into a certain Rebbe. And the Gabbai said, the Rebbe has no time. He can't see you. He said, tell the Rebbe I'm a relative of his. Oh, a relative. He went and told the Rebbe. He said, okay, well, let him. He comes in. He says, how are you related? He says, what do you mean? We're all children from Avram, Yitzchak, Yaakov, Sarah, Rivka, Rachel, we're all mishpacha. So when we turn to our fellow Jews, you have to turn to your family members perhaps, but every Jew is your family member. Kippur, to make amends, not only between us and Hashem, but between us and our fellow man. I just want to tell you a story. The guy who lived next door to him, he says, I ask you for forgiveness for what I've done wrong to you the past year. His neighbor says, I can't think of anything you've done wrong to me this past year. I don't know why you would ask for forgiveness. As a matter of fact, we really hardly talk to each other. We don't have much between us. Surely you didn't offend me. So he says, that's exactly why I'm asking for forgiveness. I'm asking forgiveness that we're neighbors and we don't have a relationship, that we don't talk to each other, that we don't... Forgiveness for not being there for each other as neighbors to help each other throughout the year. So sometimes you ask for forgiveness for a violation of something, offense, something you did wrong. Sometimes you say, I ask for forgiveness that we weren't the type of friends and family we should have been. Imagine your family member lives next door and you don't talk. A cousin of yours lives next door. You don't talk to your cousins. You're mishpacha. You have to spend. It's a sin that you don't help your family more. Every Jew is your mishpacha, your family. You're a member of your family. So this is the time of year surely to ask for forgiveness if we've done wrong, but also to say, how can we benefit from each other, to help one another, to be stronger and more connected to each other in the coming year.